Not the results you want tonight, man. 129, 125. Pistons just look like they didn't have it on the defensive side tonight to be able to keep the Washington Wizards in check. About to go to the press conference and talk about it. Cade had a big game, 38 points for him. And he got a career high in free throw attempts today, 20 plus. So shout out to him, but let me know what you guys think in the comments, man. About to head to the press conference, talk about it. No victory shades, no business handled, but at least they know that. We're going to hear from J.B. Bickerstaff. We're going to hear from Isaiah Stewart. They were short, they were sweet, they were simple, they were mad. They didn't really want to be there asking too many questions because they felt like they just dropped the ball, Flannel Sam.
Yeah, I got to be honest, that one stings. And I get it, it's just a regular season game, but I'm not going to be getting over that one anytime soon. If they can turn around and beat OKC, then I'll be over it. But that's going to be tough. They got some tough games ahead, and hopefully we're not looking back at this one at the end of the year thinking, man, that would have been a good one to have. But just a brutal loss.
Hey, I'm going to try and be honest. here. I'm going to try and be honest here. I got to be consistent. I said, listen, even if they lose, I just said this yesterday, it's not the end of the world. These things happen. But when you say, you know what, that one stings just a little bit, yeah, you could kind of feel it. But what up, though, people? It is Wake Up Woodward. I know we're going to talk Pistons in this opener. So definitely want to have you tell the people what's on the rest of the menu today.
Well, we've got a special guest joining us at 9 o'clock. His name is Motor City Don P. He used to go by the name of Chef Talks, and he's a up-and-coming content creator, and you guys may know him as someone you've seen in the chats at Woodward for a very long time. We got him coming in at 9 to discuss the Lions. We're going to talk about free agency and some potential edge rushers that are still available, because as things are shaping out, I have a feeling that I'm not alone with the sentiment of, you know what they've done so far is fine, but I'd still like them to get another edge rusher. I don't think I'm alone in that train of thought, and there are some that are available that won't really cost you all that much, and we're going to be doing some profiles on them, but those damn Pistons. And that sounds a little harsh, but I'm hurt. I'm hurt.
You know what? Rightfully so, though. Remember earlier on in the Red Wings season, there were losses, there were wins, and I'm like, you know what? Say it with your chest, because this type of a passion means that team is actually playing for something right now. And the Detroit Pistons have been standing on their heads since 0-4. They're still a team since that time that is 37 and 26. So I'm still confident in what this team can be, but they do have a tough stretch of games. So that's one where you're like, for everything that's just in front of you, for seeing how some of these other teams that aren't even this dysfunctional, the Pacers and the Bucks, they weren't a part of that, but you find yourselves now locked in a sprint towards the end of the season, down the last 15 or so games of this year for an opportunity to actually host a playoff spot. You could tell they were pissed. You could tell. There was, we were sitting waiting in the press conference room, and you could hear them saying, cussing, because their locker room is just down the hall from us. You could hear them heated. You could hear them like, how the F did we do this? You could tell that there was a little bit of, I don't want to say embarrassment, but they knew that the fans showed up. Fans, for 313 Day, y'all showed up. But I did hear this from the people I talked to. They were still like, dang, man, they were supposed to get that one, man. It's going to be tough for the head. But they still some dogs, though, man. Them young dogs are still. So it was cool to hear at least that sentiment from fans that, like us, it stings, but you're not jumping off the band. You're not taking a broad brush to this team and saying, oh, dump them all out into the Detroit River. This is a team that I expect to definitely get it together. And beyond what most people think with this stretch of games ahead, I do believe that they're going to fare much better than they did against the Wizards, in which the second game, I think they just looked down on their opponent. They took it for granted, though.
You know, it's funny that you mention that, because I have to get on the stand myself, and then I have to put some others on the stand. Nobody specifically, but I'll just start with myself. I got a little bit too cocky. I was talking yesterday about how, maybe the Pistons can practice some things, basically implying like them running a practice during a game against the terrible Wizards team still, but this is the NBA. And the Pistons are a team, and whether you're a fan, whether you're players, it seems like all of these teams, especially when you haven't won anything yet, the NBA has a way of dishing out humble pie, whether it's to fans or to players, and I think last night was as humbling of a dose of pie as I've certainly received as a Pistons fan this year, and I'm sure the Pistons as a team have received
That might
this year.
be the best word. Not embarrassment, but humble.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and I think that they'll ultimately be fine. It's just that I certainly took the Wizards lightly as a fan. I think the Pistons might have been reading their own press clippings a little bit and took the Wizards lightly too, because let's be honest. On Tuesday, they didn't even play their A game, and they still won by 20. I think that they thought they could win off of vibes and the fact that the Wizards are just so bad. But you know what? The Wizards came to play, but the Pistons helped them out by not really having any defensive intensity whatsoever. A lot of those threes, all 20 of them that the Wizards were hitting, were wide open.
That's what I keep telling you guys, the Achilles heel. And I'm going to continue to monitor things over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, as we start to talk about the best playoff matchups. But that's their Achilles heel for some reason. Those teams that can shoot the three ball well, they have an opportunity to just discombobulate the Pistons. And we saw it last night, but that's one where they've been better. They've still been able to stave that off better over the last 2 to 3 months of the season, to where that's why I want to see how they bounce back. They've been a team that has been resilient. You know, they take a loss or they take a few losses, and they've been a team largely that has been able to kind of shore that up and move forward. Similar to the Detroit Lions, they take a loss and we see them say, you know what, we're going to get right back in stride. And so this team is kind of in the same mold and grit. But before we get to Stu and JB Bickerstaff, who you sound a lot alike, a lot of your sentiments are like theirs. They're like, look, we took them for granted. We were looking at the record. They were like us last year, but this is the NBA. Yeah. But just literally, while we've been sitting here, I've gotten a couple comments, man. Zeke from IG commented, Detroit Kool-Aid, man, LCA was sold out last night. I just checked the attendance. I could tell because I was waiting in line for 20 minutes trying to get in, and I missed most of the first quarter. Remember, guys, I told you last night, I was pulling up Saturday night, 15 minutes into the game. The Lions were back to the Woodward. He says, regardless of that, the vibes are high, but lost last night. But a bad loss last night, but we will bounce back. And another one, Derek Pulliam, he says, horrible loss, but a necessary one. This team has to learn how to play to their standard and not to the level of the competition. Compete hard. Value possessions. Don't take plays off. Stop giving the ball away. Stop giving up threes. Everybody crash the boards. Everybody close down the paint. Because I wanted to read that one because yesterday they did some things that were uncharacteristic. Yeah. They got out-rebounded. They got out-assisted. They weren't the same team that they generally are. They generally dominate those areas and aspects of the box score. It was cool to see Cade Cunningham get the free throws, but they didn't do some of the scrappy things necessary, and it reflects in the score. We were thinking they had an opportunity to score that many points, but we also thought that their defense was going to be one that did not give up 129 to the Wizards.
And I'll tell you what, too, if you would have told me before the game, and this is why games aren't played on paper, and this is why anything can happen, certainly in professional sports, if you would have told me before the game that Cade Cunningham would not only take over 20 free throws, he would make 20 free throws, and the team as a whole would make 37, I would have been like, 25-point win. But that just goes to show they didn't do the other things very well. And I'll just start with Cade Cunningham. I don't think he played an awful game by any stretch. I mean, he gave you 38 points, 10 assists. But other than free throws, he was very inefficient. His three-point shot just wasn't there.
It rimmed out like 4 of those three-point attempts.
And it be like that sometimes. But when it is a contributing factor to costing you a game. And I'm not saying it was Cade's fault, but the three-point shooting and the lack of scoring efficiency, it wasn't great. And it's magnified when you lose a game in such a poor fashion. I'm not saying that Cade was the biggest reason they lost or even the second, third, fourth, but at the end of the day, I use it to highlight, yeah, the free throws were amazing, but what else in the entire sport of basketball did the Pistons do well last night besides get fouled and shoot free throws? Not a whole lot.
No, not a whole lot. And they got 29 fast break points, But
That's fair.
But they still found themselves in a position to where they were playing a lot of half court basketball, and I think that's what really messed up the inefficiency there. Obviously, Cade was getting his foul shots, but their best offense is being out in transition. And this is the thing with the rebounds, right? They got 41. They gave up 47 to the Wizards. That can't happen.
No.
That's a recipe for disaster for them. The assists, they got 23. The Wizards had 30 assists. Like, those are the things that I'm looking at. Like, even steals, the Wizards had 10, the Pistons had 8. So all of the things that we've seen largely contribute to their success just wasn't there. And then that does put a bigger onus on a Cade Cunningham to play a little bit cleaner with those usage. It puts a onus on him to have to play more perfect. Whereas if the hustle, the defense, those things that kind of disappeared in the fourth quarter, if those things were there, I think we'd be singing a little bit of a different tune. But this is a part of when you look at this team, the growth, the maturation, the steps forward, the goals that they have, because they don't want to go to the playoffs and get waxed. These are the things that they're going to have to improve upon, both individually as players like Cade, Duren, and those guys, even Asar Thompson, as well as a team, as a cohesive unit. They have to understand your defense takes no plays off. Your defense takes no time off. I don't care if you're Asar Thompson or not. I don't care if you have the skill set of an Isaiah Stewart or not. You can't take a play off, period. And last night there were times where the defense took long lapses based on personnel, a lot of people point out. But that's where they have to solve. And they only have a couple weeks realistically to solve that if they want to have a good chance in the playoffs against stiff competition every single night.
Yeah, this is just one where you got to flush it. You got to forget that it happened, and you damn sure better not play like this again, because I get it. Losses happen. Inexplicable losses happen, but it was the way that they were just kind of flat and sloppy, and it's unfortunate. All of the calling cards of what JB Bickerstaff is and what this team has been under him, they just all went out the window last night. Yeah. But again, it's 1 out of 82, but it's the Wizards. And I get that the Wizards, they drive Mercedes too, to quote Neil Rule. But at the end of the day, got to win that game. But I think it's video time.
I hope they do, man. A lot of those guys look like they belong in the G League. But
wow.
You know what?
Last night, though, a lot of them G League players like Keontae George. Funny, he found his 3-point stroke last night. But anywho, go ahead.
Hey, you know what? Do we have time to take a little break and then get back to the videos? Let's definitely do that, because I want to hear from JB and from Isaiah Stewart. I'm hoping the people do as well if they missed it last night. And then from chat family member and Woodward Sports Reporter Deshaun, who was also at the game last night. So let's hear from our friends at Feldman.
Absolutely. Feldman Chevrolet of Novi, Detroit's #1 Chevrolet dealer and the Chevrolet dealer of the year for 6 consecutive years. They got deals of the month. You can get a 2025 Chevy